Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another recording of Elevate Your Brand. I am Chris, your host. But that's not important. What's important is our guests and the knowledge that they bring. And today is no different. We have an amazing guest with lots of experience. He's been an entrepreneur for 10 years. So he's learned a little bit, and he's going to be able to share some things for us going forward to elevate our brands. So today we have Tim Swindle, and he, like I said, he's been an entrepreneur for 10 years. He's launched multiple companies. His first Kickstarter in 2013 was successfully funded for a game that he co-created called Utter Nonsense. So you might have heard of it. And it achieved a rapid commercial interest and, eventually and ultimately went on to be sold in Target, Walmart, and other major retailers out there around the country. So, and since then, he's bought numerous products brought numerous products to market in the toy game and novelty space. And today we're going to kind of cover, his journey a little bit, what he's learned, what he can share to help you, but also how to use online trends to create hit products. So again, Tim, welcome to Elevate Your Brand. So glad you're here.
Thanks, Chris. Excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. And we're excited to dive into this, but, trying to kind of, I had that short intro there for you, but why entrepreneurship? I know you've been doing it for 10 years, but what got you into being an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I think it might go back to my early days. So my father was an entrepreneur, so I kind of saw that growing up. He had owned his own businesses. My first foray was actually, I was really into golf as a kid, still am to this day. But I started my first business when I think I was like 13 years old, doing golf lessons at this little 9-hole muni course that we used to go to in the summers. So my dad, helped me make these pamphlets and some business cards that we would put at the pro shop. And so, at 13, I wasn't really in the position to be giving anybody lessons, but, what I found was there's parents that are looking for some, an hour of free time, and they'll give their, 7-year-old up to me for, a half hour or an hour to go hit balls at the range. So, their game was probably not improving because of my help, but, it gave me the first taste of just, a little bit of marketing, responsibility. Cause I was only 13, 14 years old. I wanted to be at the beach the whole day myself. And I would know that I'd have a schedule, an appointment or whatever at 2 p.m. and I had to go home and get changed and head to the range to go meet, clients. So, from an early days, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I think.
That's really cool. And I love that spirit there. And, I guess I won't ask to go play golf with you because you'll probably obliterate me, but I enjoy golf too. But I think that's really neat. And especially starting such a young age and just having the aspiration to, create something, do something for yourself and be able to open up other doors. But, with that, over your 10 years, I'm sure it's been a roller coaster, just like a lot of people probably in the space realize it's not a straight linear path. What are some of the obstacles, like the bigger obstacles that you have, come to on your journey that you were able to overcome, obviously, but what were some of those obstacles?
I think I have a lot of self-doubt. And so, and I find this with a lot of entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that I speak with, where they do a lot of thinking about their idea. They talk about it a lot, but they don't really take action. And so what I've found, the thing that's helped me the most is, you should talk about it. That's like another red flag I see, is that, folks will generally not want to tell anybody about their idea, and because they think they're giving up, somebody's going to steal their idea, right? That's what I hear all the time. And I believe it's the complete opposite. Being an entrepreneur is hard. The idea is, I put it at 5%. And that's actually got a proven concept in toys and games, because if you have an idea that you want to license, it's worth a 5% royalty. So there's numbers to put behind that. Execution is what it's all about. Yeah. It's 95% execution. So anyway, again, going back to, some of the hurdles, it's taking that first step, creating a prototype. Those are the types of things where, for instance, that game that you mentioned, Utter Nonsense, talked about it for over a year with my buddy who's my co-creator before we really did anything about it. now knowing, and especially because it was successful, would have done that so much faster. Just got to get it out there, start talking to people, make a prototype, get people, playing with your product, whatever it is. Obviously in my situation, generally speaking, it's a toy or a game. So just coming up with the most rough, not spending a lot of money, right? Because like some people want to go full bore. If they're going to do it, they're going to spend $50,000 creating something. It's like, you don't need to go that far, just get the most basic thing you can get just to test the market and see if you have something, and get that response, that authentic response from, potential, people in the market.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that's a great point. It's getting started. I think for so many, it's such a hurdle. I mean, that for me, it was the same kind of thing. Like I wanted to start a podcast originally. That was the whole goal. And I wanted to build a business, just didn't know what to do. And finally just took that step and said, I'm going to start it, enough researching, enough, trying to figure it all out, and just did it. And it's grown. And I'm super thankful for that. But then it was, the next step, what am I going to do in business? When am I should I quit my job now, kind of thing, all those things, taking that step, and just kind of overcoming that fear or that, apprehension of doing it because of the unknown, really gets out there in people's heads sometimes.
There's I was lucky enough to be invited back to my high school to give a talk. And there was a slide that I referenced, and it's one of these that I have, like, I'm saved on my computer screen, and there's like two circles. There's like a big circle in the middle, and then there's like a tiny circle right outside of the big circle up in the corner. The big circle is your comfort zone. And then like the little circle in the corner is like where you grow, like you have to get out of your comfort zone and get into what feels uncomfortable, because that's where the growth happens, and that's where the opportunity lies.
For sure. Absolutely. And, I always kind of reference when I talk to people kind of about the same scenario is, do you work out? Do you run? Because that's, I run and then things like that. Like to improve, to get stronger, you're going to have to push more weight, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to hurt, and you're going to be sore after. But that's the only way that our muscles, that our bodies are able to grow and get stronger, is through that kind of those micro tears, that pain that only lasts for a little bit. But in the moment, it's like, oh man, gosh, this sucks. Like, I think leg day specifically, like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. But the benefits.
And this has become popularized by Ryan Holiday, the author. He's the big stoic guy that does a lot of what he does, books about stoicism. And he has the one famous book called "The Obstacle is the Way." And that the title describes it all. The obstacle is the way you have to go. Like that's how you achieve success, is going through those obstacles.
Because it's like, if it was easy, we hear this all the time. If it's easy, everybody would do it.
Sure, exactly.
And so you got to take the path less traveled to get to that success, to get that to the next level and everything. So with that, so why did you choose, I'm interested to hear this, why did you choose to go down like the novelty game toy route with, entrepreneurship for the most part?
So
I know you do other things, but
it is, I know, because some people are like really, really into games, and there's a market of people that just live and breathe board games. And then we should clarify that it is, physical games and not electric games, electronic games. So at the time I was an entrepreneur in the software space. So I was a partner at a software company. It was, venture backed, cash burning, fast growing, big teams, very stressful. And I had this idea for a game. So I take a step back. The game I did play was Cards Against Humanity. So that's a game I think a lot of people know. Just a fun kind of party game to play with friends when you're having a couple of beers or whatever. And read an article in Inc. magazine about kind of what their playbook was to bring it to market, because it was launched by just some guys that were buddies from high school. It wasn't like some big Hasbro type of endeavor. And I read that, and it was just like, man, I mean, of course the article makes it seem a lot easier than it is, but and there was a game that we had been playing with our group of friends over the years at like lake houses, when we're kind of bored late at night. We came up with this concept that ultimately was utter nonsense. And I was like, I think I could take that game that we've been playing and turn it into a real product and bring it to market and kind of use the Cards Against Humanity playbook. And so this, because I had a full-time job at the software company, I was like, this will just be a fun, scratch my own itch, kind of, passion project, nights and weekends. And so that was it. And so set out to do that. And, took us about 6 months from kind of like committing to it, to bringing it to the market. As you mentioned, we did a Kickstarter. Did not like blow up on Kickstarter by any means, but we got funded. It hit our goal, which was a modest goal of like $15,000.
Okay.
So it was like the first win. Just kind of like got the ball rolling, and then shortly after that, we were noticed by the buyer at Target, and that was kind of a definite momentum changing situation.
Yeah.
Very atypical in the space. So basically, just to answer your question, started out as like a fun side hustle, passion project. Wanted this thing, just felt like it should exist in the world. And unlike the other side of the business, the other business I was used to, which was like the venture backed, cash burning software startup. This was a basically bootstrapped physical product. Just I don't know, for fun. Well, the game ended up just taking off, just kind of out of nowhere. Target obviously was the big driver there. Brought it into all 1,700 of their stores, basically 3 months after we had launched.
That's awesome.
And so, so it just kind of took off, and I could give more intricacies of how that all came to dealing with the Target buyer and whatnot, but that just kind of put us on a path. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think it's neat how it started as that passion project. You hear both sides of it. Don't worry about like loving it or you're doing it as a passion. Just find something that the market needs and build it, so you can focus on what you want. And then you have the other camp that's find something you enjoy and love and just put effort into it and it'll grow, kind of thing. And so I understand both camps, and I understand.
I'm definitely in the later camp. Just even beyond that. I mean, continue on, but I mean,
I'm glad that's kind of how. So because I started my podcast, and originally I was like, I want to be that coach. I want to help other people, and it just kind of didn't fit. And the podcasting stuff I just really enjoyed, and Elevate just kind of grew from it. I had people asking me things, and I enjoyed talking about that and what podcasting can do, and it just kind of happened. And so, that's why I kind of like that. Starting from kind of a passion thing and kind of making it work.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is, any business is hard. Like it doesn't matter what industry it is, it's still hard. And so the reason why I'm in the latter camp is that like, if I'm not passionate about it, then, and I'm just doing it for money or hoping I make money, like you're not going to be all in,
Right.
Whereas like with this game, it was something that I was passionate about. Like I'd been playing this, like I believed in it, and like I felt like the world needed this.
Yeah.
And so another way of looking at it is like, even if it wasn't successful, would I still be happy that I did it? The answer was yes. And I think if you can't answer yes to that question, like, I don't know, I have a hard time pursuing something if the answer to that is not yes.
Yeah, no, and I agree for sure with that. And I think it's an interesting process. I mean, you start with Kickstarter, and then, Target was a huge shift, momentum changer. But if people are, they have a product or even a service that they're putting out there, online is huge now, right? And so Kickstarter's online, you can utilize that. But I know one thing that you're an expert in talking is, leveraging influencers or bigger name people or brands to drive that product awareness. So, let's dive into that a little bit. How can people utilize those influencers? How do they get connected to them? How do they utilize them to push their product in their market?
Sure. So one thing you touched on is that, if you are getting started out specifically in kind of the physical product space, and I mean, even if it's more of a service, but, I feel like there's never been an easier time in a sense to become an entrepreneur, because the ability to spin up your own website, Shopify, it's basically like a storefront, plug and play, social media, drive ads, so to get you started these days, in a sense, has never been easier. The downside of that is that there's so many people doing that, so,
right.
And then on top of that, Amazon also. So with those two channels of creating your own website and call it a Shopify store, and Amazon, you really can get yourself off the ground and control your own destiny. I
Mhm.
mean, the ultimate goal may be to end up in stores and end up in Target, et cetera. But what's happened now is that, the buyers at these bigger retailers, they're looking for the data that you can provide to them with your Amazon store, with your Shopify store, et cetera, to help give them the justification to bring your product into their stores.
Right.
So that was just as a little bit of a side note of those two channels that you can control right now as an entrepreneur. It just means like, endless opportunity. Now, how do you do that? How do you stand out in
Yeah.
the crowded market space? And what products are you bringing to market? That's where the social trends, leveraging influencers, things like that come into play. So my business partner Scott and I, we had this idea. It kind of came about over during everyone was locked down during COVID, and you saw a lot of these viral videos on social media of people playing like ping pong trick shots in their basement.
Yep.
And so those were just like going viral, but there was no real kind of like kit or game around that. It was people literally just taking like products in their house and a ping pong and just setting up like a course. So we had this idea, to come up with a game where basically we would provide you with a kit to create this kind of like trick shot course. And so with that, while noodling on that idea, we were introduced to a guy by the name of TJass. He goes by TJass,
Okay.
and he has like 5 million followers across his social media accounts. He's this dude from Kenosha, Wisconsin. He's like this little white guy that just like crazy basketball, like trick shots
Okay.
that he does. And so we kind of like married those two concepts together and launched, AlleyHoopster, which is, currently out there. And so it's like, leveraging, his brand awareness, his ability to provide brand awareness,
Mhm.
let his audience know about this product, and, help stand out from, just it's a crowded market, and like, leveraging an influencer that has 5 million people following them. Like
Yeah.
that's an easy way to kind of, bring awareness to your product.
Yeah.
So
Well, how did you so you said you got connected. Was it just a mutual connection, or did you guys reach out to him, or?
it was a mutual
Okay.
connection. I mean, we did. So, I mean, at least there was a warm intro.
Yeah.
We still had to present the concept and the
Mhm.
idea and the business plan and the opportunity and things like that. So it wasn't a given, but
Right.
it helped that we kind
Mhm.
of had this kind of warm introduction through a mutual friend that
For
knew
sure.
him. But I mean, these influencers, they're designed to be found. I mean, they're looking for opportunities like this.
Mhm.
So, I think they're fairly approachable. You can look up who their management contacts are. So,
Mm.
before we got in touch with him, we were, contacting other folks that we were maybe going to work with. And, you just they typically have ways to contact them because they're always
Yeah.
looking for, ways to make money for themselves.
Right.
And then, we gave our spiel, and a lot of times like it was compelling enough that like their management team or whatever would get back to us. So,
Mhm.
you know, it's not impossible to create those connections.
I gotcha. So it'd be more beneficial for people looking to connect with these influencers to find who does maybe their PR, their management type stuff instead of just messaging directly on the social media platform. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, well, I think it depends on their size.
Okay. Yeah.
So the Logan brothers, or Jake Paul, or
Yeah.
whatever, like Logan Paul, like they're
Yeah.
not going to respond. But like
Right.
it's people a little farther down the celebrity scale or whatever, the
Mhm.
popularity scale that maybe are approachable. You never know. I mean, I would say don't. There's not a hard line answer to that.
Right.
You can try, sliding into their DMs, and what I would say is that like have a compelling proposition,
Yeah.
right? Don't just be like, hey, can we chat? Like
Right.
that's not going to
What's
work.
that look like? What's a compelling proposition
Yeah, just
look
say,
like?
listen, like, try to make it sound like you've done your homework. Like, hey, I've been following you for a number of years, hopefully, and I've noticed you did this, and because you did this, I'm creating this product that is tangential to that, where I think you would be a great fit to partner with this. And make it just very personal,
Mm.
and maybe throw in about like, I think there's an opportunity for you to make X amount of dollars, right? Like just some sort of hook that's going to be like, really? You think I can make that much? Okay, I'm going to talk to this person, right?
Right.
So something like that kind of formula, I would say, will typically have more success than
Okay.
just a broad random outreach that's not personalized.
For sure. No, yeah, I think that's so good. And being personal, I think, yeah, and personal
Mhm.
builds that connection better. So say you've done that. You say you've gotten connected with them and they're like, yeah, this is really it looks like it could be mutually beneficial. What's that look like? I mean, do they just get a percentage of everything that's sold? Is it an affiliate link? Like, how do you typically set those up with your
Yeah.
influencers?
There's a million ways to skin that cat.
Yeah.
Uh, it's truly, take your pick. But I mean,
Hmm.
the easiest is going to be some sort of like royalty agreement,
Okay.
because if you do like a true partnership where they have
Hmm.
like equity in it, it gets a little more complicated because then there's just the risk involved. Um, there's, I don't know, commingling the bank accounts. It's a lot more complicated. And so
Yeah.
if you can keep it where it's just, hey, listen, you promote it based on the sales you bring in, you get this much revenue. Again, in the toy and game space, it's generally about 5% as a
Okay.
royalty.
Hmm.
Now, depending on the popularity of the person, that's more for like if you invented something and you were to bring it to like a game publisher like a Hasbro.
Hmm.
You didn't want to bring it to the market yourself, but you had a really good concept. Generally speaking, the flat kind of fee or whatever is 5%.
Okay.
Now, if somebody's incredibly popular, there's just way bigger upside because they can just generate a ton of sales. Call it like the Kardashians. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like their fee is going to be way different in this scenario,
Yeah.
because they can just instantly generate millions and millions of dollars.
Hmm.
So anyway, so typically a royalty is what you'll see done in these scenarios.
Okay. Cool. No, that's interesting because I always wondered, what's the setup? What do the influencers get from that? Is it just a kind of upfront thing, or like you said, royalty? So I appreciate you diving into that.
Yeah.
So you utilize these influencers for your product, get it out there, get more awareness on it. You know, social media now is just becoming a whole different animal for businesses, right? Before
Mhm.
it, you had to have all these testimonials, written down, quoted, and that's still very, very beneficial. But there's more that you can do on social media for social proof, right? There to utilize that platform to show the validity of your product.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing we're working on right now is it's a new game that's launching in about a month called Paddle Smash.
Okay.
So this is the new thing that, basically spending most of my time on. Super excited about it. It's basically a love child of pickleball and spike ball. So again, going back to our initial concept of like looking for ideas, looking for trends. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America by a considerable amount. It just seems
Mhm.
like everybody, it used to be your grandparents used to play it, but now it's like everybody's playing it. It's
Yep.
super approachable, way more fun than tennis. Um, and then spike ball. So it's like
Mhm.
a mix of like pickleball and spike ball. Spike ball, again, like, very popular
Yep.
outdoor active sport. And so it kind of marries those two concepts together. And again, looking at social media, there's just like a ton of pickleball content out there. So we are in the process of contacting call pickleball players, people that would maybe be interested in partnering with us and helping promote this product. And so again, leveraging social media. Also, like one of the first things we're doing is like we've started our social media accounts.
Mm.
That's just the easiest way, low cost, to get in front of people. And so
Yep.
like this just happened yesterday where we've just started kind of sharing some content. TikTok is becoming, more and more relevant for brands.
Mhm.
And so that's one we're trying to focus on. And someone found us. This person, their website, I think, is called like
Oh,
backyardgames.com,
nice.
something
Uh-huh.
like that. So it's the exact type of, and basically they just cover backyard games, right? And so like here we are launching this new backyard game, and an influencer in the backyard game space basically found us through social media. And so I like to talk about this concept of like increasing your luck surface area. And so just you need to put yourself out there and allow yourself to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the phase we're in right now. And just yesterday, we had this nice hit of somebody that found the game, found it interesting. We're sending them a sample, and they're gonna do a little write up on it.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think, that's again, a good point you made is just getting yourself out there,
yeah,
just doing it. Cause I think that hinders a lot of people, well, they don't want to hear what I have to say, or they don't want to, they won't like my thing. And they let that again, that fear kind of stop them from just getting out there and trying. But,
yeah,
yeah. And I think that's a cool thing too, how, people can find you on social media now. And if it's a good connection and a good, if it's good for both parties, being able to utilize that and sending them that sample for them to do the write up, or for them to, show their audience them playing it and talking about it. I think that's and a pretty low entry. I mean, I'm sure there's some people you have to pay to do that part of
yeah.
it,
I
but
mean, a
still a
lot
lot.
of times it'll be they call it like product for post.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
again, unless you're like really big time. I mean, a lot of times they're just happy to get your product and
Yeah.
get free product, and they'll post about it, or they'll take some. The other thing with social media is like you're constantly needing to feed the content machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really helpful with bringing in new content, is like you're giving the product to somebody, they're providing you photos of them playing it, video of them playing it. And, then you can recycle that content to use on your platform, on your channels.
Right. Yeah. And it's so nice to be able to have that opportunity and to utilize that, because again, yeah, the more content you can put out there, the more that you can be seen and people are going to find you, and having other people do it for you basically and utilize
Mm-hmm.
that is huge. So, and I think it's just like, again, going back to just doing it, just testing it, just trying it, getting it out
Mm-hmm.
there, and doing that is super important, even especially in the product space, right? Because if not, no one's ever going to find it. No one's ever going to
Yeah.
be able to talk about it. So,
Yeah, exactly. And another important thing is try to get
mhm.
outside of your core group of friends and
Mm,
family, because a lot of times the easiest thing to do obviously is you're going to like share it with your group of friends. You're going to get a lot of like oh, that's great, Tim, that's great, Chris, you want that kind of raw feedback of, is this thing good? Yeah.
yeah.
And one thing that my business partner Scott does is he won't tell people it's his idea. He'll say, "Hey, I was sent this to, someone I know. I'm just taking a look at it for them. Do you mind playing with this and seeing what you think?" So then it takes that, because people don't want to be rude. They think like if they know
Right.
that it's you that did it, they're gonna be like it's great. But if they don't know the person, right,
Yeah.
so even if it is yours, there's ways you can kind of play those little games,
Mm.
just to get more of that raw feedback on your idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, because people, yeah, they don't want to, especially ones really close. They have well
Mhm.
intent, but they don't want to hurt you by being critical at all. When
Right.
you need that, actually would be more helpful. So,
Mm.
um, this has been good so far. I just have a couple kind of questions here still to go over, and I'd love to know. You've talked about all kind of the process of you, building these games, getting it out there, utilizing influencers and social media. But if you could look back, on your journey so far, first, what would you say has been a really key or crucial moment in elevating your brand, your games?
What has been like in what has been a career? I'm having a hard time with
Yeah.
that
So,
one.
like, I know you mentioned Target. Was that like the moment that really kind of helped get that momentum to the next level to keep things rolling, or was there something else that you just kind of think
Yeah,
back on?
yeah. So I mean, I'll say like in a lot of instances for myself and uh, other friends I have, there seems to be like this little spark, and like
Mhm.
it comes from the weirdest places. Uh, and it kind of goes back to everything we've been saying, which is like, got to put yourself out there. But I'll give like specific examples. So with Utter Nonsense, when we launched it, hired my sister to do PR and marketing, mostly PR, and she was just doing outreach to people that may cover toys and games. And so she ended up getting a write up in an article with the Toy and Game News UK,
Mm.
United Kingdom. our game was not sold in the United Kingdom. So I was just like, great, like, thanks for that, Shannon. Well, it turns out, guess who does read Toy and Game News UK? The buyer at Target. So because of that, they read the article and contacted us. So this tiny, obscure publication in UK, wouldn't think anything of it, is what was read that ultimately led us to get that introduction into Target, right?
Wow.
So would never think that. And then, there's another competitor game out there called CrossNet, or just, they're like a 4-way volleyball thing that's been out there for a couple of years. I've got to know the founder pretty well, and their story is somehow the Latvian volleyball team, one of them, and the Latvian volleyball team apparently has like a decent YouTube channel that they post content to. So they played the game and posted it to their YouTube channel, and that was like a big spark that a ton of people started buying it because they saw this YouTube, that the Latvian volleyball team had posted about it, and they had no idea they bought it or anything like that.
Wow, that's cool. It's those little moments, like, you don't even like. It's almost like you're doing the right things and you're trying to push it out there, but it's almost like the things that you don't necessarily try to make happen that are the bigger sparks. You're just kind of trying to keep your head down, do the right thing, and then something just happens because of it. And I think those are like the coolest moments to really look at and wow, that happened not because we were like pushing for Target, but because we're just trying to share
like ads or anything like that. I mean, I think there's an important lesson there, which is like the more authentic something is. I mean, especially now, like I think consumers have smartened up to certainly ads. They know, people are being paid to do something, I think there's just that innate kind of like, this feels like they're pushing something on me. When it feels authentic, I just think that you can't replicate that, and you can't put a price on that. And so, when you can kind of create those magical, authentic moments, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the authenticity is huge. And I've really appreciated your time today, Tim. One last kind of question to wrap things up. Now, and this is, again, we talked to a lot of people who are, early on their entrepreneurial journeys, starting out, wanting to start out. So this will really, I think, benefit them specifically. But if you could go back in time, maybe to yourself teaching golf lessons, or even maybe at the start of, utter nonsense, what would one piece of advice you would tell yourself to maybe speed up the process to get where you are now, or to, help that process?
Just get started. I mean, I became an entrepreneur at like 30. Where I quit my, comfy job in commercial real estate and decided to pursue, the software company. And I guess like, I'm like, and for basically my entire 20s, like I knew I wanted to do my own thing. Right. And going back on it, it's just like, I wish I started earlier, I wish I had that belief in myself just to get started, and then you'll figure it out. That's it.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think that's, I kind of got started a couple of years ago. So just before I turned 30, basically. And just get it started. I think it's a huge, huge thing to take away. So Tim, again, I really appreciate you being on Elevate Your Brand today, sharing all this great wisdom and insight, and a lot that people can take away to benefit their journey. So again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you guys are tuned into this or watching a replay, make sure to share with them. Maybe somebody who's starting out as an entrepreneur or trying to get a product out there to the masses. Share this, send this to them so they can benefit from what Tim shared. And make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts from. But until next time, just get started, get out there and make a difference.